Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Back to normal.
That actually hurt for a second.
Any
Somebody needs to warm up. How you doing?
I'm just saying I'm hanging in there. I'm normally a very upbeat, positive person, but this mold situation at my house is slowly crushing my soul.
What do you mean? What's going on?
So we discovered some allergenic mold. It's not black mold. It's not going to kill anybody, but we discovered some mold. And so therefore the process to get rid of it is to move out of your home for a week, and they essentially fumigate it and do everything. So I had to put all my clothes, all my shoes, all my linens, all my towels into a lot of trash bags and different things, and then go wash them with borax. It's a whole thing.
Hold on. Isn't this the first week of school there too?
Yes. So it has been
super convenient.
What?
Super convenient time for them to have to do this.
I know, exactly. It's like it's been, I think my brain has just been so overwhelmed with that, AC issues, which have caused the mold. So it's all one big thing, but I have a team of people that are coming this coming week to fix my entire life. Please, God, let it happen. And then hopefully I can get a little bit more semblance of normalcy.
Well, at least you're hopefully towards the end of it, or is it another week?
Oh yeah, no, we're moving out on Tuesday. So that's 2 days from now. And then it'll be a week later that we get to move back in.
Jesus.
So,
Jesus.
I know.
Oh,
literally, Lord, I could take
Jesus.
anything. I need Jesus right now.
Woo!
Jesus, take the wheel for real.
Woo! Now I'm a little
Which is
Richard.
Probably a little bit ironic after our conversation.
I know.
with our
Brad
today.
I know. We have a great guest on the podcast today, Mr. Brad Gardner, but we'll get to that in a second. I had to send in a self-tape this week for the play A Few Good Men, written by Aaron Sorkin. That was really cool to get to kind of embody that Tom Cruise role for this theater. So I hope I get a call back. Keep you posted, people.
Yeah, I mean, so like, how does when you film yourself though, like, can you send in whatever part of it you want?
So no, they choose the scenes. They tell you from this line to this line, you do this scene with a scene partner, and they're usually off camera, and you just do the self-tape and you send it in, and then they say, okay, we'll have an in-person callback because of COVID still out here. Our union and everything, they want to minimize as much in-person auditioning as possible, even though we eventually go into rehearsals and everybody's together anyways. So
yeah, but might as well not have everybody that's trying to get into this.
Exactly.
But was that common before COVID? Like, did you film in?
Well, you would film if you were if I was on a national tour, if I was out of town for an audition, you could put yourself on tape. Then that was more common. But now it's more, people are investing in their own home studios because you have to do so many self tapes. I'm actually going to be doing that in my room very soon. I'm going to be making one wall like my self-tape
your wall.
Yeah.
Your audition wall.
Because it's
just like I'm going to build a booth for myself.
Exactly. When you use something so frequently, you kind of want it to be, you don't want to have to set up everything every time. It'd be nice to just walk in and there it is. But getting to this podcast, y'all aren't ready.
Y'all aren't ready. And I will say, for everybody out there, we wanted to get some good background on what he's done, what Brad has done in his career, because he has really just done some incredible things. But even if you're not like a Broadway person and you're not like drawn into that part, like, just wait, y'all, because it gets, we get into it as far as, we've had a lot of people on this show that are gay and have had to navigate a lot of things because of that. This is a totally different look at that.
This is next level.
I just think everybody needs to, prepare themselves, because it gets real. And Todd and I basically had one giant goosebump the entire time. So
for sure. And while we're on the subject, y'all, can y'all please go and follow us, subscribe, hit that subscribe button, because we really, that tells us that you're listening to it. And it just, go follow us on Instagram. We're climbing in the followers. We really are.
We are. Thank you to everybody that is following. Like, now you get updates on when we have new episodes and what they're going to be about. And I try my best of my 50 jobs that I have, I try my best to pump out as much as I can to give you all a glimpse into the interviews with reels and audiograms and all that. So then you can go and get a taste of each little episode before you embark on that adventure. So I think it's worth it, and it helps us in so many ways, and helps us get like more guests, different kinds of guests. And definitely send us messages if you think that people that you want to see on here, like, let us know issues you want us to talk about. It, we want to hear it. So just go do all that stuff.
All right, so let's talk about Brad, Laura.
All right, I'm gonna give a little background on Brad for everybody out there. So Brad Gardner is a music creative, newly based in Los Angeles after a decade in New York City, where he had a successful career as a Broadway and touring musician. Most recently, Brad was the associate music director of the first national tour of Disney's Aladdin, as well as the music director of the Japanese language premiere of An American in Paris and Tokyo. In New York, Brad worked on the Broadway productions of Mean Girls and The Addams Family, as well as the hit off-Broadway parody Silence the Musical, based on The Silence of the Lambs. He's worked extensively in regional theater from the Kennedy Center to Goodspeed Opera, and now a proud resident of Los Angeles. He is on the music production team for Netflix original films while still freelancing on the side as a vocal coach, arranger, and music director. So we are very proud to present Brad Gardner. Well, hello there, Brad.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's super exciting to have y'all, because y'all know each other
So
already.
exciting.
Oh my God, that's
We
right.
do. We
Wow.
met in New York many, many, many moons ago. Brad was a friend of a friend, and then I roped him into playing Guy Stroman's class. Yeah, and we became.
And how was that a crazy endeavor, or?
Yeah, I mean, it was an acting. Brad, it was an acting class. He's amazing.
Oh, thank you. I can.
And yeah, Brad can sight read anything. He's incredible. He's just, you put anything in front of him, he plays it. Yes.
That's awesome. I mean, that's way more talent than I got going on over here. So, I would like to hear, I think everybody would like to hear a little bit about kind of your background and where you kind of grew up and how you became involved with music and the arts in general.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm from North Carolina and I'm from Raleigh.
Okay.
So I used to vacation in South Carolina all the
Yeah,
time.
what parts?
We always go down to Cherry Grove and rent a beach house for a week in the summer,
Really?
every summer.
That is so random, but I love it.
Where's Cherry Grove? I don't know where Cherry
It's
Grove
like
is.
just north of Myrtle Beach, like right above Myrtle Beach.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit classier. No offense, Myrtle Beach. We love you. Keep listening. Thank you.
It's still a suburb of Myrtle Beach.
Okay, so it's a good Myrtle Beach in general. Wonderful. Love you guys. So you grew, you made your way down here sometimes.
So I guess it started when I was like 7. My mom always wanted a piano as decoration in her living room. And, Southern Belle, how decorating the house has to have a piano to make the living room look beautiful. And I just started picking it up and like sitting down and playing at it when I was little. And my mom and dad were like, "Do you want to take piano lessons?" And I said, "Sure." And did it. And they sometimes had to push me to practice, but because I think it was something I discovered and not something they pushed me into, it was something that felt like mine and something that I really liked doing and escaping into growing up. So that's really how it got started. But a majority of my career has been in musical theater, which I didn't touch until college at all. I thought I was going to be a music teacher, maybe a classical pianist. That's all I really knew until I got to college, and I had my advisor say, "Why don't you try musical theater? Like, it's good, like, side money as a music director, as a pianist." And so he got me involved in some local things around Smithfield, North Carolina, and a couple small theaters in Raleigh, North Carolina. And this was in the middle of college. And that's kind of when the bug hit me to be like, oh, I could pursue a career in the arts and do this full time. And so I remember, like, I think the craziest part of my journey to getting to New York is my junior year of college. The local symphony, it was called like the Cape Fear Wind Symphony of Eastern North Carolina. They were going to do Rhapsody in Blue, and they auditioned all the piano players at my college, Campbell University, to be the soloist for it. And I got it. I got to do it. which was really cool. And I got to write my first ever bio.
Oh,
Very
which
exciting.
is always a big milestone. But were you singing or just playing the piano?
Playing piano.
Okay. I was trying to, you know me. I'm trying
Yeah.
to figure out all the verbiage for all this stuff.
So
well, that's awesome.
Playing piano with I think 40 or 50 musicians, really cool event with the conductor, really big. And, I was shitting my pants a bit because it was really scary, but I got to write a bio. And in the bio, this was in, the turmoil, that's the wrong word, but the middle of this spin of doing so much theater in my life. And I was my bio, I wrote confidently, I'm going to move to New York and work in musical theater.
Listen, you put it out there.
I know. You manifested that shit.
And so after the concert, this woman comes up to me of the Campbell family. She came up to me and she was like, I have a daughter that plays piano in New York City. So you should talk to her. Here's her email. Here's her number. That's all she said. So I went home and looked up who that was and found out her daughter at the time was the music director of the 2006 Raul Esparza Company revival, Mary Mitchell Campbell. And I was like, oh my God, how crazy. So when I moved to New York, she gave me an internship a few months after I got there on The Addams Family. And so within my first year in New York, I was already working as an intern on a Broadway show. And it was all because, tracing it back, I wrote in my bio at my little tiny school in North Carolina that I was going to go to New York. And suddenly someone who had a daughter who was a Broadway music director saw me play and connected it.
Oh my God, I love that.
That's amazing. That's really awesome. I mean, I liked the bio story, but I like the bio story even more now because it was that was the launching point of everything. That's so cool.
Who knew by writing that little confident statement that it would, put you in touch with Mary Mitchell Campbell? I mean, that's crazy. And for those of you who don't know, she's a very accomplished music director on Broadway. And Brad, we know that you had a New York City career, like we were just talking about before moving to Los Angeles. And some of the projects you worked on were Mean Girls on Broadway, The Addams Family, Silence the Musical, which was an off-Broadway parody of Silence of the Lambs.
I have questions about that later.
Disney's Aladdin, and served as musical director for An American in Paris when it eventually went to Tokyo and won the equivalent of a Tony Award there. So all of that in itself is amazing. And what was it like making your Broadway debut? What show was it on? I guess we just answered that, but it was Addams Family. But how did it feel? Yeah,
I mean, Addams Family, that truly, well, I'll fast forward to say my real Broadway debut truly feels like Mean Girls, because Addams Family, I was an intern and a rehearsal pianist mostly. So I was so behind the scenes on that, even though it was my debut. But it was really cool to get to go to work and be in the theater. And that was really crazy. But
was that when Brooke Shields was in it at the time, right?
Brooke Shields, yeah, she replaced during that time along, who else was there? Brooke Shields, Roger Reese,
B.B. Newworth,
Rachel Potter came in during that time. Yeah. But Mean Girls really feels like my debut because it was okay, I'm in the orchestra pit. I'm playing the keyboard book. Holy cow. And I remember the funniest thing that sticks out so much about that day is it was a Wednesday. And if you know Mean Girls, on Wednesdays we wear pink. And that was a big night at the theater was Wednesdays because everyone wore pink to the theater at that show.
I love it.
And for some reason, that felt like it put so much more pressure on me being in the pit that night. Oh, and also, by the way, this was the Wednesday before the Tony Awards on Sunday.
Oh, no pressure.
And so it felt like super, super, super pressure. But it was so funny because I did it and it went and it happened. And, I then did it many, many more times after that, but it was really cool. And I think the biggest takeaway that I got from it was that I still went home and slept in my bed at the end of the day, and it felt like another day. And I was like, wait a second. I thought this was going to change the way I feel about everything because I finally hit this thing, but I'm still myself at the end of the day. And that was the weirdest feeling because I felt like I was going to hit this a full feeling of I'm fulfilled. I have arrived. And I didn't feel that at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, taking the disappointment of not feeling that right away, I'm sure that over time, though, you started to get that feeling after you get to then you're asked to work on another Broadway musical. Then you're asked to be the music director for, what was it? The American in Paris. Cause I from reading everything I've read about you, that was kind of its own evolution of you started out doing it here and then you were put in charge of the national tour. And then you end up going to Tokyo, which you told us a little bit beforehand about. If you could kind of explain what happened there, that would be awesome.
Yeah. I was the associate music director on the first national of An American in Paris. And to explain what that means is I supported the conductor. So out of the 8 shows a week, I would play piano in the orchestra for 6 of those, and I would conduct 2. So I did that for about a year on the national tour, and then I left that, and the music supervisor reached out, and he was like, "Next year, this is going to Japan, and I want you to be in charge and be the music director." So crazily enough, I ended up going to Japan for a little over 3 months, where I was one of 3 people who spoke English. And we did the show in Japanese.
Wow.
And that was super culture shock, wild. It was mind-boggling every day going to work and not really knowing what was going on, but knowing the music.
Yeah. I mean, did you
and letting that be the language we spoke?
Yeah.
Through.
So did you pick up a lot of Japanese while you're there, or did you just kind of speak to everybody in piano?
I did. I picked up a little bit, and they, while I was at work, they gave me a translator, which was really cool. There's something so funny about these huge rehearsal halls, and to speak to that cast, I think the Broadway company and the tour had 35 people. That was 25 and then 10 swings. So 10 people that aren't necessarily on stage all the time, but they're there to cover. In Japan, they didn't do that. They just said, okay, we'll just double cast, triple cast everything. So I think we had over 60 people in the show. So we would have these huge rehearsal halls going where cast A is working on one side of the room and cast B is on the other side of the room, doing the same show in the same room, just 2 sets of the show. But, it's a massive room, and I would just be talking this normal level speaking voice. And my translator would have a microphone right up against her face and was saying everything really loudly in Japanese that I was saying. And it was such a power trip and so funny to be what am I saying?
Who knows? Hopefully she's representing me correctly. Well, congratulations on also winning an award for that, which is, got to feel pretty good considering you didn't speak the language when you were there.
Yeah. It won it was the best musical of, what was that, 2018 or 2019 in Tokyo.
That's awesome.
But did really well for them.
That's amazing. Well, so now we know that you have moved to LA, and you work for the so fabulous Netflix.
I do.
In music production. Can you kind of explain to everybody what it is that you do when it comes to music production there, and what's kind of your favorite part?
Yeah. So I'm on the music production team for live action film. So that's all the non-animated Netflix movies that we self-produce. And so my job is to walk the music team hired on it, so the composer, the music supervisor, that whole slew of people, to walk them through the whole process and be there to support them with any live recording elements they need. So if we need to book studios for them, we need to book their personnel to make the recordings happen. We need to hire the contractors. We need to hire the musicians. I'm there to organize all of that, and then also to oversee the budget. And actually, the coolest part of my job, which I've been doing even up to this past week, is going to the recording studio and being in the room and watching it all come together.
Wow.
So you're basically running Netflix. It sounds like you have 800 jobs. I just can't even imagine keeping up with all that. And that's just for one, do they put you on specific projects, or is it you're just called to come wherever you're needed?
Yeah, we have multiple things going at any time. So it's never less than 5 projects at a time.
All over too, right? Because you have to go to London often, and you have to go, I know you're always booking studios and stuff overseas as well, right?
Yeah. So we record all over the world. So I manage all of that, making sure we have space. Space is really hard to find because there's so much content out there. There's not a lot of big recording studios to support that.
Yeah.
So it's my job to figure out where everything goes and make sure that a year from now we have a space reserved for something because it's slotted to record that.
But you originally started as a COVID safety coordinator, and then you moved for the music creative production team, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And then now you've moved into a different realm, which is awesome.
Yeah. So I did a year of oh man, that was such a crazy thing be like working on floor plans of how the orchestra is going to be laid out so they're all 6 feet apart, yet it's optimal for recording quality.
You're triggering
Make
me right
sure
now.
that the brass players have like like they have puppy pads or foot operated trash cans for their spit to go into.
What?
So it's just not going all over the floor.
How do you? Where are they spitting from, and how are they catching it? I just can't even envision it.
Well,
I'm sorry. It's just
the grossest part of this is like before the pandemic, no one ever thought about this. But like all the curves of a brass instrument, they collect spit because you're blowing into them. And so often brass players just open these little valves and blow through the instrument and spit goes all over the floor.
I have literally never thought about
it's
that.
gross.
We need to talk to Molly O'Connell about what she does with the spit that comes out of her miniature tuba or whatever she plays. That is too funny. Well, we know that you have, obviously you pivoted from New York to LA, and you kind of gave us a little bit of background that was more for stability and some work-life balance. So what did you feel was so kind of unstable about your life in New York and Broadway that made you want to make that transition?
I think for me, it's a combination of a couple things. It's the schedule and working every night and really only having Monday nights off is such a weird thing for most of the world. And so it felt so in a bubble almost, and that my social life was my work friends. My love life was my work. It was so contained. And I felt like I had no way to like open up, and be like a normal human functioning society. It was just this theater world that I was in. And I was like, I started to feel like panic, like I couldn't get out of this room. And going on tour actually started to open my eyes to be like, wait, there's people live outside of New York so much. The quality of life outside of New York is so different and so much better.
Really?
Yeah.
So you kind of feel like that was definitely the right move for you all around?
Oh, yeah. And I got a therapist for the first time on that national tour of American in Paris. And that's when I started realizing, like, she started me like, maybe you're not meant to be in New York. And I resisted that so hard at the beginning. And I don't know. It turned me.
Well, because you had put it in your bio. You had put it in your bio.
I know. You already manifested. You
How
couldn't
could
leave.
you leave New York?
I know. I thought I would never leave New York, truly. I thought New York was it. This is where I'm staying. I'm never going anywhere else. And then got there and was like, oh, wait. I have many more priorities in life than just Broadway.
Yeah. Well, I love New York as a whole, but I think maybe some people are just kind of meant to visit.
That's me now. I am excited to visit. I have to go back in a month, and I'm excited to be there for like 4 days.
Yeah, exactly. That's like the perfect amount of time, I feel like.
So, Brad, this podcast really revolves around the discussion of trauma and overcoming hardships, as you know. And you mentioned that so much of your trauma was unpacked when you sort of went into musical theater. And what did you mean by that? And what exactly did you need to unpack? And how did theater help you do that?
Oh man, that's a big question. Where do I start? I mean, I feel like it's such a stereotypical thing in the theater world, especially the people that come from the South to the theater world, or many places. But I felt like I had never been seen or accepted just as a gay person until I was in the theater world. And that's such like a normal path for a lot of people. I don't want to discount it either. I feel like that's why it really resonated with me once I got to New York, and I was like, oh my God, this community doesn't care. Like, most of this community is that. Because growing up in North Carolina in a Southern Baptist community, going to the Southern Baptist K through 12 school, that was really brainwashing in a way that I didn't realize it, of course, because that's what brainwashing is. But it was really challenging, figuring that out and like getting out of that like brainwashy world of that Southern Baptist, not to bash all Southern Baptists, because I think they're, it's hard to like, I never want to like blanket statement something about this thing, but the world I was in was really toxic. And figuring out that I was gay, but not having any outlet where it felt safe to talk about that, because it felt like I didn't know what was going to happen if that came out. That was really hard. And so like fast forward like through that whole process to getting to New York and finding theater, or even like before I moved to New York in Raleigh, North Carolina, finding theater, it was like nothing in my life had ever felt that comfortable until I found that.
And you said it was K through 12. So you went to a Southern Baptist school for middle and high school, and then you also had church on the weekends.
Yeah, it was the same school from when I was 5 years old to 17. So I definitely had classmates who were there that whole time too. I did not go to that church though. They really did push my mom for her and I and my dad to come to that church on the weekends, but they actually never did that, which I'm thankful for.
Because it sounds like it was a pretty oppressive kind of environment already. So, that would have maybe been even more traumatizing. Or do you think you got enough of that while you were at school anyways?
Oh, I think I got enough at school anyways. Man, that place, it's funny. And just like thinking about talking about some of this today, I went down a rabbit hole yesterday looking at their website and being like, oh my God, they're still doing this. Like this school is still operating like it was when I was there. And wow, just it brought back so many feelings. And like I remember finding like their creed, which they made everyone recite in the twice a week chapel services. And I was looking at it and was like, wow, this is still in my head. Like if I looked away, I could continue all these sentences.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's a long time to be there. So, I mean, like, like you said, it's a little bit of a brainwashing. I'd like you to kind of elaborate on that. Like, what do you feel like they, were some things that were kind of put into your headspace, if you will, that, made you the most uncomfortable? I'm assuming, obviously, being gay and not feeling open about that. But, what was the kind of the environment that you feel a little bit triggered by when you go and see their website?
It seems like there's so many rules. There's so many rules. And I remember actually every year before you start, they make every person sign this contract that says like, I will not go to the movie theaters. I will not dance. I will not listen to rock and roll.
Oh, you were real Southern Baptist. Like I know Southern Baptist, but that is some real Southern Baptist. Like, could you not play cards?
Probably not. I don't think that was written in there. But I mean, there were things written in there too about like, cannot engage in any homosexual activity, cannot touch the opposite sex, like
covered all the
beyond
bases.
all
so
of
you
it.
had to sign, wait a minute, just hold the phone. You had to sign an actual contract like every year?
Yes.
You wouldn't go to the movies.
And I went to the movies. Like my grandma would be like, we're going to the movies. Like, come on. Like, and the thing is like, no one was policing that because like, if you got seen at the movies, then like, that was a bad thing. So it wasn't like really controlled. Or you see classmates at the movies and be like, I didn't see you here.
Brad, you and I both share that. We both grew up Southern Baptist. Yours sounds incredibly hardcore. Mine was too. The thing that always bothers me, and maybe you feel this way too, is that it's all masked in we're so inclusive. But we're so
really?
But we're oh yeah, it's like, everybody is God's children. You're all welcome. Just don't be gay.
Ugh. Or go to the movies.
And if you are, don't talk about it. If you and it's the amount of repressed homosexuality in the church. I mean, I'm sure you saw people around. You were like, now looking back as a grown ass man, you look back and you're like, oh, that person was totally gay and has a wife and has children, but they are, gay as Christmas. So
yeah, I mean, I was looking even at like who's running that school now, and I was like, I have questions about some of them. Like, oh man, and it's funny. Like looking back at my class, there was only 24 people in my graduating class. And I know for a fact that 3 of us are gay. And I was like, 1/8 of that class is out of the closet now. Like, it's wild.
Yeah. And it's wild too that like they went out of their way to be like, don't touch the opposite sex, but also specifically you people that might be thinking about homosexuality, like just cut that right out because that's just never going to be okay.
Yeah. And like to the homosexuality of it all, I'm curious if they still teach this class. Senior year, they teach a class called Worldviews, where they talk about the Christian perspective on the world. And I remember they talked about the separation of church and state. Like they said, it's like a one-way mirror. So like the church can infiltrate the state, but the state can't infiltrate the church. I remember learning that. So I remember they would play us like condom commercials, like that specifically targeted like gays. And they would then have us like analyze why these were sinful commercials. I'm not kidding.
People are nuts.
This is like a new level. I guess I just never I mean, my parents grew up, my dad was kind of born on the border of North Carolina, South Carolina, upstate, all that side of the family. And then my mom was raised Southern Baptist down here, and they both had this shared experience, like mutually, exclusive from each other, but that they would go to church camp and they would have to learn, they'd have to memorize the Bible and write it down on toilet paper to, like, just in case, like, there was some kind of like attack, like a Chinese, because this is like, post World War II, obviously a good amount post, but that there was still this fear that, like, we'd lose the word,
the Bible?
like the word of God. And it was like, I remember them telling me that one night, and I was just like, I'm sorry, what? And then they just both started reciting like every line of, each one of the parts that they learned, and they are not religious. Like, my mom's a proclaimed atheist. And I think, and a major part of it is because she was raised, I believe, this is my theory, was that she was raised Southern Baptist, because it was like, no, like, this is out of this world as far as, compared to what, and I don't want to sit here and bash all Southern Baptists, but it just seems like, when you're trying to put that kind of message out there, like, that is traumatizing to people.
In those formative years, I mean, that's really like just gets encoded in your brain. Like, I think I still filter the world through that lens sometimes, and I have to catch myself and be like, whoa, 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 whoa.
How could you not, Brad? I mean, if you're doing that every day from, K through 12, and I just can't, I can't imagine. And can you tell us about your parents, and were they supportive when you came out? Did you have to hide the fact that you were gay in the, obviously you did, but with the community, did other people know?
I didn't come out until like the end of college.
Oh, okay. Probably from all that, brainwashing and scolding didn't help the process along.
The shame, right? It's the shame.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And, I knew, like, I look back and I know I started knowing I was gay when I was like 10 or 11 years old. Like, that's when I started to really realize it. But I think because I knew at that time I was so brainwashed by the school that was like my moral compass. And so to me at that time, my feelings of gay were so wrong. And so I would like pray about it, act on it in the privacy of my room, and then pray about it. And so, like, I really didn't ever want to tell my parents at that point, because it didn't feel safe, but it also felt like something's wrong with me. I should address this before I let it onto the world. So it wasn't until probably the end of high school I started like being like, wait, this is just who I am, which is funny because at that time I was disguising it by running harder into the church. So I became like the church pianist for everything at school because we had twice a week service. I also became the president of the Saved to Serve Club, which was the missionary club. All the time knowing I was gay and like getting actually more used to the fact that I was gay, but I was hiding because I was like, well, if I'm in a leadership position in this church, no one's going to think I'm gay, which I look like at the world now. And man, that's so common,
my God. I was going to say, this is like a micro example of like, I think a bigger problem within like even the United States. Just like, it's always the people that are in these committees and stuff within Congress that are like the the pro-family, anti-gay groups that end up like turns out, most of them are gay.
They're the ones. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. And at some point it flips. And I think that's what happens for me is like, I was like, I have to act on this and I have to like realize I can't suppress this part of my life. And going to, funnily enough, a Southern Baptist college, Campbell University, that was like my next stepping stone. But it was such a liberal Baptist school because I believe the year I started, they got kicked out of the Southern Baptist Convention, my college, because they were ordaining women. And that was 2005.
I literally can't right now. But were your parents supportive?
So, sorry, my long-winded way of getting to that, I think.
No, we want to hear all of it.
I think in college, I started realizing like, oh, this is something I'm more confident in who I am in my relationship with this, and I can bring this to them. And it actually took me meeting my best friend, Jamie. Her name's Jamie Howard. She's lovely. and we talk every day. Meeting her, and funnily enough, she was also in the closet, and so we became, I think, a little bit like each other's like beards, and like everyone thought we were together, but we weren't. And so we came out to each other first, which is so funny, which I think gave me like a safe space of someone to fall back on a little bit when I actually came around to talking to my parents. And, I think they handled it differently. And, I think they both struggled with it in their own ways. And, I think my mom and I, we had our ups and downs over it. And it took a while for us to get to like a really beautiful relationship on the other side of that. But I have never been closer to her now. And I think it's such a, she didn't necessarily take it 100% well at the time. But I think that was her also just like trying to see it through a lens of religion and like this world the only world she knew. And so it's interesting, like watching our journey, me and my mom's journey in the past, like 15 years or so since that's happened, and like watching her religious journey grow into something that's more aligned with who she realizes she is and what she believes, not what she was brainwashed for 40 plus years to know.
So she grew up Southern Baptist.
Yeah.
And her and I guess it's just been passed down, right?
Totally. Yeah. It's just the world, she's from Whiteville, North Carolina.
Yeah. Oh my God. Whiteville is where, oh my gosh, that's just where some of my family is from. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's like we've talked to several, gay men, and we'd love to get any gay women out there that want to be on here, but several gay men, and they've all wonderful way. Their family is very supportive about them coming out, and kind of like new in a way, but like to hear that you were in such a anti not like explicitly anti-homosexual situation, and then so you're battling with that, and then you tell your parents, and then they have to go through that whole process themselves. And then you got to think about how many people they have to tell or explain to. And that's like such a world shaking kind of thing.
Well, yeah, there's social community. I mean, he literally had to sign a contract that he would not be
it's
gay.
Just like, I can't.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful, I guess, that I said, well, your parents, do you think they subscribed to all of those rules exactly? Or were they a little bit more?
I don't think they did. I think it's just what they knew. Like my mom, certainly. I think this was what she knew, and I think it's just the world she grew up in, and it was familiar, and that's why that world was there. What's funny is my dad was never really like in that world too much. Like my dad was very much like the Wayne Dyer, like you'll see it when you believe it. Like he was always that when I was growing up. And like through my religious perspective at the time, I was like, oh, this kook, like whatever. I don't know what he's saying. But to fast forward to when I came out, like he at the time was living, my parents divorced. He was living in South Florida. And I remember like being down there and telling him, and he was just like, okay, like it didn't faze him at that time, which was really interesting. And I don't know if maybe it phased him behind closed doors a little bit, but like face to face, it was just like the most normal conversation and kind of shocked me. And he was so loving from then on too. And like, it's so interesting. Like, how I look back and I see how he was always there, like questioning the religion and being like, you should go to a public school. You should do this. And I was like, no, this is the world I know. I'm not going there. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, he was really more open-minded than I realized at the time.
But like he wasn't, trying to stuff it down your throat, unlike the other side that was definitely, trying to keep their claws in you. I don't know. I hate to, I don't want to disparage anybody's religion, but it just seems like with all of people don't really consider how that can ultimately really affect like an entire, not just one person, but their entire family, the entire way that they view the world. I mean, it's all just kind of starts to feel a little culty. So one thing that Todd did tell me was that you were named one of the most successful people at your school, and then later found out they took you off the list when they learned you were gay.
Yeah, when I moved to New York, like I was on their successful alumni page on their website, and then at some point in that, well, I can actually know when it happened. They realized I was gay, and they took me off the successful alumni page. And I know I'm probably the most successful person out of that school. It's a small school in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm not being egotistical. I just know.
No. I mean, so say you're a pretty big deal. So
the people on that page are like, is a pastor's wife in
Oh, my
Cary, North
God.
Carolina. Like those are the successful
Oh
people.
God. Okay. Yeah. Now I know what we're working with. But I mean, like, how did that make you feel? Like it's. I mean, if I don't know, in a way, I would almost be like, well, of course they did, but also,
Yeah.
you assholes.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I was like, I don't care. Like, they don't judge what success is. I don't like whatever. They can think that. It's fine. Like, at that point when it happened, I was like, I don't care. I think what frustrates me more is that somehow they still keep track of my address. I don't know how. And they still send me money for like donation, like send me things for donations. I got one like 2 weeks ago here. And I was like, how did you get I've lived in 3 places in Los Angeles. How did you get this address? Like, I don't know where it's coming from, but I still get mail from them to be like, donate. I'm like, okay, I'm not successful, but you want my money?
Yeah, I know. I'm not allowed to be on the website anymore, but yeah, I'll totally give money to this. Like, oh my gosh, what hypocrites.
Unbelievable.
And you know that God is giving them the addresses. So that's what's going on here.
Good point,
I mean,
Laura.
well, I'm just like incredibly proud of you for getting out of that. I mean, I don't know if you really had much of a choice, because if you feel that way, like, how can you stay in that same environment? But I imagine with that much just constant barrage of everything, that, you know, it was a little bit, like I said, a little culty. Like, I mean, there are
Yeah.
deprogrammers for a living out there in the world for a reason. And it seems like you had to do some deprogramming once you kind of got to New York. So I just commend you for going through that journey.
Oh, thank you. And I still I pray for. No, I like the people who I know are still in that spiral. Like, they're still just swirling around that, and that's all they know. And the more they're in it, the more they believe it. And that's might be who they are till the day they die. And that breaks my heart a little bit too. Just like knowing that impact is still there.
Right. Brad, I know your father and your mom divorced when you were younger, and I understand that your dad's long-term girlfriend was HIV positive. And I guess back in the 90s, that obviously had a tremendous stigma. How did it affect you and your perception of people living with HIV?
That's a good question. Yeah, so when my parents divorced when I was like 11, I think, and my dad very quickly met this woman, and she was HIV positive. Which, of course, when I first found that out, I was so freaked out, because I was in this school that was telling me like AIDS is the devil, and like, you know, that it was that world. Like, no, like don't talk to them, don't touch them. And I was suddenly found myself living in this house as a preteen teenager with her, and realizing, watching through the acts of my dad, how he didn't like have any concerns about it. And there wasn't like this, like, oh my God, protect her in a bubble and don't touch her and like all that stuff. Like, don't be near her when she's holding a knife, like stuff like that. And I think just being around that and seeing their interaction made me realize, like, whoa. Why are we so careful about this? Like, you know, it kind of desensitized me to like realize like it's not this scary thing anymore. And also it even enforced that more. And I'm actually like, I think right now I'm just processing this too, is she had a bunch of gay friends. And so like when I was like 12, this was probably one of my first exposures to gay people in society in North Carolina. And I remember just thinking like, oh my God, that's such a nice community, and they're funny and like it's so welcoming, and they don't care. Like, they were just like, seemed like, wow, why is their life so fun? And so that really like helped me realize like, okay, it's not this thing to be scared of. Of course, there's precautions to take if you're in that position with somebody, but like, it's not something that we need to be like so terrified of as it was a thing in the 80s.
And today, actually, we as gay men, we still have to take care of ourselves. There's, you know, PrEP for those people listening that don't know what that is. People take PrEP or PEP. It's a pill you take every day, and it basically prevents you from contracting HIV.
Right.
I did not know that. This is news to me. That, I mean, like, how does that, I don't know if you know like the science behind it or anything, but how does that, like, when did that come about?
Just not that long ago. It was like maybe 5 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that.
PEP is like post-exposure.
Okay.
So you can take a pill after X amount of within X amount of hours after, and it also prevents anything.
It will kill the virus within inside you.
Wow. Well, thank God for science.
Yeah, I mean, totally. And they say that we're 5 to 10 years out from an actual cure. People actually think that we actually have a cure.
I read the other day that somebody was essentially cured of it. I mean, obviously we'll see long term how that works out, but yeah, I mean, like it's just I guess I'm wondering how that kind of affected your view on then like the gay community, like because it was very much, a gay related disease or virus. And so it's like, to have a woman that's contracted it, do you think that kind of gave you a little bit more perspective or was it confusing? Like, I don't know.
I think it gave me perspective because I remember being in that worldviews class my senior year and like watching those commercials and like being like, okay, I understand this, but also I've met these people and they're not this. That gave me that perspective of like, yeah, like this is not accurate.
But you were having that feeling, Brad, but also trying to repress the fact that you felt that way, I'm sure, because you're like, why? I shouldn't like these people. I shouldn't see them as...
I had to keep up appearances and like be this like shiny president of the Save to Serve Club.
That's the whole thing with the microcosm of being Southern in general, I think. We do have to keep, I mean, the whole culture is keeping up appearances. What's your family name? Who are you from? Where are you from? Oh, I know them, that kind of thing. And you compound that with kind of a culty, religion. And it's just the most judgy. They feign no judgment, but in reality, they're judging everybody, and
which is like
you can sit
the
here.
number
You can
one
sit here. You
rule
just can't
is
sit
like,
here.
Thou shalt not judge. Like it's just like it gets me that I've never heard to that like one way mirror of separation of church and state like that, and it explains, I think, a lot of what is going on now and has gone on for a long time of, oh, okay, yeah, no, y'all say that, but we know what it's really all about. And that means it doesn't apply to us.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
We're not going to do that.
Yeah. And it's like the whole thing of like, everyone's welcome. It's like, everyone's welcome, parentheses, so we can judge you and pray for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really that's how I see it now, looking back at that place.
Well, I mean, I am, I just still amazed that you made it out in one piece, to be honest. And I'm so glad you had that. I'm really glad that you and your mom are now so close, and that you did also have that kind of different perspective from your dad and his girlfriend. So I guess, how I'd like to know kind of, how do you see relationships now? Does your past trauma with any of that ever come into the present? And does it control kind of a narrative in your brain? And how do you silence that noise that was built up from there?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I think truly that's something right now I feel like I talk with my therapist about, is like how like all of this trauma from growing up is impacting my relationships and how I'm navigating it. Because like I'm in a great relationship right now with my boyfriend, Adam, and like I want to show up for him and show up in the best way. And then sometimes I do catch myself in moments being like, why am I feeling this way? I shouldn't feel this way. And then I bring it and like have to like navigate like, oh, this is the coding that like was really baked into my brain for 13 years being in that school. This is the lens I'm seeing this from. Okay, step outside of that. Oh, that's why that's processing that way. That's why you're feeling this certain air about it. So that's been really interesting to like not judge myself lately. If I feel like I'm reacting to a certain situation in my close relationships, even with friends, to not judge it right away. Just be like, wait, what's going on? Okay, I see. I'm seeing it through this like weird lens, and I can like now kind of try to rewrite that with my more, woke brain.
Just reminds me like of like kind of a real concrete example. We interviewed Lair Torrent, he's a therapist who just really awesome like person in general, as far as kind of recognizing that a lot of trauma that we experience later on in life is a result of your inner child and like what you were exposed to when you were younger. And it's just like, this is a concrete example of that you were battling so many things at the same time. You finally kind of figure it out, but then it's going to keep coming out until you really hash it out.
Yeah.
Do you think the self-awareness of this, Brad, sort of confronting and not judging yourself came from therapy?
I think so, yeah. And I mean, I think the biggest thing that's come from it is also therapy. Also, I did The Artist Way, that like really great journaling book for artists to like discover their vision. Like, I love that. But through that and through therapy, I really started journaling a lot. And like, I still do a lot of writing practices for that. I feel like writing just has been my outlet to like hash out what I'm feeling and to like look at it objectively and be like, this is what's happening.
So you journal.
Yeah, I journal.
Oh, wow.
And like one of the exercises that I've loved in past therapy is where they've been like, just write your story one chapter at a time, like see it like 1 year of your life. And whatever you can remember from that year of your life, just write it in there. And then we'll talk about it. Because it kind of like makes you realize like how you're telling your story and how you perceive you grew up. And then that kind of informs the lens you're seeing your current life.
It really goes
through.
to kind of the part of the question that Todd asked was like the narrative that everybody kind of builds up in their head, and to like actually see it on paper. Sometimes you're like, oh my God, I'm ridiculous. Like, not like I'm ridiculous as a person, but like that's a ridiculous thought. And I need to, like, now that I've gotten it out, it's out there and it's out of my brain. And so I'm a huge journaler too. Like I do it even on my phone, just in like my notes app. I will just like write, if I'm feeling a certain feeling, I'm just like, okay, just write it down and then look at it in like an hour and see if you still feel that way. And it helps tremendously without being like, to not be reactive to things, and like taking a pause and to just say like, okay, that's what I was feeling in that moment. But I am not that moment. I am now in a totally different place, and I've processed it. And then that you can prevent so many catastrophic discussions or, like I really am a big believer. And I've told Todd this a lot about, like, if you're upset with someone, writing a letter to them and then just throwing it away. Or if you want to keep it. But like sometimes like all that stuff that you want to say is not something that you will really necessarily feel great about later on. So get it out now.
That's good. Yeah. And it's like once it's on paper, you can like look at it and judge it like someone else wrote it a little bit and mean like, whoa, you're acting crazy. Calm down. And then it's like it just kind of removes yourself from it a little bit.
Did you journal when you were younger?
No, not at all. I would journal on like vacations because my grandma was always like, write down everything you do every day or you'll forget it. So I have like my little vacation journals, but that's it.
Well, I think that, I had the same thing. Like, whenever we traveled, I would journal. But as I got older, I started to realize that a really powerful thing about journaling too is you start to notice patterns of like not only your actions, but other people's actions. And it helps you to reflect.
And probably the patterns of the way you're thinking, like the way, how you view yourself, how you view other people, how you view the world. I can't imagine that when you're reading it back, you're like, I don't think like that, do I?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Challenges yourself to like make that change to who you want to be.
And Brad, you're also kind of, you're on a spiritual journey. Like you and I what's that place that we went to? And I'm obsessed with it now in LA.
The Kadampa Buddhist Meditation Center in Los Feliz.
I want to go.
Yeah. Explain what it is. Explain what it is.
It's a Buddhist meditation center, and I think, because it's a little like old, actually was a former Methodist church. It's down in my corner, and it's now owned by Buddhists, and they do like daily meditations there, and you just go in for 30 minutes. It's guided. They do like a couple 30-minute meditations a day. They do like Buddhist training courses. They do Sunday. This is what I love. They do every Sunday morning. They do an hour and 15-minute session, and it's just a guided meditation and then like a class on like some aspect of being a good human. And it feels like for me, it feels like the structure of religion, because I think to me that's still comforting because that's what I knew growing up. But it's so not like it's so they're not talking about God this, God that. They're just talking about like being in a good relationship with someone and perspectives to think about. And then you sit there in silence and you think about it for 15 minutes. I think it's so peaceful and such a beautiful, reverent escape from the world. And so I think I don't know if I identify as a Buddhist, but I think I identify the most right now with that line of thinking.
I think you've re-identified the way that you pray. I mean, I think and probably go inward with that stuff and speak to the universe or God or whatever you believe now. But it sounds like it's just a good place to go. And well, I was there with you. It's amazing. You go and you just sit there, and to sit there in silence with your thoughts in a busy city like LA, just to get that hour and 15 minutes of just kind of opening your mind, clearing the energy. It's pretty powerful. And coming from the South and that intense religion that you grew up in, it's such a drastic change. But like you said, it's still I'm going to church, but it's a different kind of church.
Yeah.
The community is still there, which feels really nice. To be meditating in a group of 30, 40 people is really a cool energy to think like we're all sitting in silence and just breathing and like being kind to ourselves in this moment.
Yeah, it seems like there's a level of, it's kind of what I feel like most religion should focus more on, instead of like the rules of, because like nobody really knows. Like
exactly,
so
no one knows.
I think the focus and the benefit of a church is the community and and being together. That was one thing, because I was a member of a Southern Baptist church for a little bit myself. And when you all kind of have this, you're all together, there is a feeling of like, we're all grateful at the same time. Like kind of, we're all speaking to the universe. Just everybody calls it a different thing, that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's awesome. As I keep saying, I am coming out. And so I'm going to have like 50 things on my list from this podcast that I've said I'm going to do. So I'll be very busy, but I will go to that every day because it sounds really cool.
It's great. Yeah. That can be your moment of downtime. That's your moment of downtime in your busy schedule.
Yeah. After I go get some like injections by Jen, and oh my God. I go to our Todd and I's normal haunts of places that we in West Hollywood. But I just like can't thank you enough for being so open about this. I think, like I said before, it is a different perspective than we've been able to have on this show, and it shows just how much incredible growth can happen from 5 to all the way up to once you're in college and you finally kind of started to be like, no, this is who I am. So I just really commend you and respect you for that. And
for sure.
And it does kind of lend itself to, we have a tradition on the show, and so we ask a question of the day, and I think that this kind of lends itself to what I just said is, if you had to be one age for the rest of your life, what age would that be?
Ooh.
And now I feel like there's all these qualifiers. Like, are you stuck as that person, like that look, and then you continue on to be? But I want to hear your answer.
I think we should do it knowing what you know now.
Okay, knowing what you know now.
I mean, I like right where I am right now. So like 35?
Yeah, good answer.
Just stay right here.
Yeah.
Let's just stay. You're done.
I feel like I finally have not my priorities right, but I feel like I have my priorities most in line now than I ever have. And just, I don't know, life.
Well,
day-to-day life is really
you
lovely.
have an incredible job. You have an incredible group of friends out here. You have a great support system. It's beautiful out here. It's happy. You're in a great relationship. Like, yeah, you're in like the prime of your life. It's amazing.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. Sometimes it's like it takes someone else saying that to be like, okay, things are okay. And this is
things are
good.
amazing.
Like, there's a lot to be thankful for.
You've done how many Broadway shows? Now you're working at Netflix, Brad. You got it. You're good.
It's like that day after he
you escaped.
After the day after he performed his first thing, and he's like, I thought it would feel a lot more exciting.
Yeah.
This is they always say in our business, living the dream, and I feel like you're now living the actual dream.
Mm-hmm. Can I tell you just on that note really quick is like this week I was on a certain movie lot in LA for work, and I was there after like late and, late by my standards, which is not that late. But everything had closed, and the security guard, I was there so late, the gate I usually go out was closed, and like the big, like metal gates were shut. And I was like, uh-oh, I'm stuck. And so I was like, how do I get out? And so a security guard was like, okay, you're going to go down there. And when you get to New York, you're going to go here. And then you're going to go left. And it's like this little village street. And then you're going to turn right at the church. And then once you go straight down there, you'll pass like a couple sound stages. And then there's the gate. And it was one of these moments like driving through alone on like a huge movie studio at night, past iconic sets in my little car, just like driving out. And I was like, whoa, this is like a crazy LA moment. And I was like, this is cool. I have to like soak up this wild moment in LA.
Yeah. I mean, that I thought you were going to say something like, and then I was mugged. But like, no, it's like, you're right. That's one of those moments you have to be like, my life is like unreal in a cool way.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And it's like kind of like taking the Buddhist thing and out into the world every day. Be like being grateful in the moment, mindfulness. I mean, self-awareness. We're all learning this. This is a pattern that we all need to kind of practice more, I think.
And
yeah,
one more thing. I think the huge thing that I'm hearing from you is that there's been a lot of self-forgiveness. Because I think when you go through what you went through, Brad, you have to, and you know that you're a smart man, you got to go, I forgive myself because I was friggin' brainwashed. I forgive myself for hating myself that much and for not allowing myself to be my true authentic self, because that's where you were in it. So you have to forgive to move on. So
let go, move forward.
Exactly. Well, this has been incredible, Brad. We are so happy to have you today.
Thank you
Truly.
so much.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, it was so wonderful to speak to you, and I can't wait to meet you in person when I come out to LA. And your journey has been incredible, and I'm so happy for your success.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, thank you for coming on, and we'll definitely talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Brad.
Bye.
Whoa. Just, first of all, I truly love Brad. I think that he is one of the most genuine, amazing, sweet humans on this planet. And he embodies what a true friend is. I can call Brad and be like, hey, I'm having a really rough day. And he'll be like, come over and let's order a pizza.
Yeah.
He's so wonderful. And he's been through so much. Like that contract, man.
I know. The contract's really got us. Like, I mean, I'm freaking out a little bit about that. Just that's something like I remember when I was in high school and there was like the pledge to not like basically drink. Like, I mean, I knew some schools had like pledge not to give up your virginity on prom, but like ours was like, please pledge not to drink up, after prom or whatever. And I was like, I'm not signing that. Ridiculous. And then to have like him be signing away literally like the ability to listen to certain CDs and go to the movies, like that is like so next level. I can't even comprehend it.
It truly is. And then we talked after the interview about that they would search their cars and see what the presets were on the radio and see what CDs they had or the tapes they had in their car. Because
he's a little younger than you, Todd.
I know. I had a moment about that today. But listen, he really, Laura. I mean, I felt like you and I both had goosebumps the whole time. I mean, he was so open and vulnerable about his experience, but he truly, just by writing that bio in that program, and that lady saw it, and then he went and worked on Broadway. It was just like that was his path. I think he had so much within him. He manifested that moment, and he manifested his life.
Yeah, because I mean, it was so structured and dictated that whole time. I mean, that's why I keep saying it's like almost like a miracle that he got out of that, because that really does happen where so many people, I mean, we know this, but so many people, have beards or stay in, marriages just for the society's perspective, especially in the South, and to be in that small area. And then also, we got to learn a little bit about his mom's journey with it, and that I'm just grateful that came out as a good outcome. But I'm sure it was really hard at the time.
Now they talk all the time, and they're super close, like you said. Like, and that it is beautiful. It's beautiful.
I mean, I just think all around it was. I know that we've had several gay guys on here that have all given us different perspectives on different things and not necessarily just being gay, but that, that was a very unique story that I just hope that there are people out there that are in that same, maybe possibly even currently in that situation or still recovering from that situation. Kind of takes me back to Susan Hayward, like the spiritual abuse in a way of that is something a lot of people have to overcome because it gets so into your head that like, how are you
the fact that he called it brainwashing,
Yeah.
that when he started off the interview saying that he was brainwashed, I'm sure that he learned that he was brainwashed through therapy. I mean, learned to give it a name and to admit that you were brainwashed is a huge thing in itself because it's accepting that you were abused.
Yeah.
So I think but he's clearly overcome so much.
He continues to. You could tell he like had some like revelations a little bit on the podcast itself where he's like, well, now I'm just now realizing that and that, that's what this is all about. Like nobody's all the way done. But the contract is just like seared in my brain right now. And I just like can't with it. So I'm just so glad that he's
and you're an attorney. So you're like, how, what?
I know. I was saying that even to him when we talked a little bit afterwards. It's like, as an attorney, I'm like, I mean, that's illegal. You're signing a contract with a minor, but no, this is really just a policy issue. It went down this whole rabbit hole, but like a part of me is like wants to sue this school.
Well, he said they're still doing it, which I'm like,
well, the fact they took him off I don't know which school it is. You know who you are. The fact you took him off of that. I mean, obviously this is something you very strongly are anti. So, but like, I hope you know that you are making a grave mistake and that is, I don't know. I just think that it's sad that there's still so many people in this world that can't accept people for who they are.
Exactly. And when he talked about that worldviews class about how Christians are supposed to view the world, I'm like, by whose lens? Who is determining how all Christians are supposed to view the world?
Exactly.
Who?
Yeah. Well, God. God is.
God, the Old Testament, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I know. Exactly. Let's cherry pick the crap out of this and tell you what is the worldview.
I don't think that there's, listen, I have my own relationship with God. I'm sure you have your own, universe, God, whatever, the higher power. And I think we have our reverence for this being, this entity, but people use it as a tool to abuse and to oppress people and to make people feel bad about being who they are. It's
for
just
their own agenda. Like it's like, and that's where I get really confused. Like how is it serving you to be bossing these people around about like who and what they have to be as people and how they should see church and state, like how you should interpret that when it's vastly different from the rest of most of America.
Exactly. It's like the audacity.
Yeah.
Like the actual audacity of these frickin' people. It's just, you're hurting children. You're hurting children who then grow up and become adults and have to live normal lives with all different types of people in the world. And you have created such a prejudice in their mind of other people and how other people live that for them to even accept them, it's almost like it goes against everything in their being because you have bashed it into them with this religious abuse. It's insane.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's just, it kind of gets me worked up. So maybe we should take a little bit of a chill pill and take some breaths.
So let me ask you, if you had to be one age for the rest of your life, knowing what you know now, what age would that be?
Well, I definitely feel like I'm copying him a little bit, I'd have to say, where I'm at right now is a really great place. Like, I mean, there's lots of ages I could say, I had when I was 21 and I was like super skinny and was the event planner for my sorority, whatever. Those are like cool memories. But, knowing what I know now, I feel more comfortable in who I am as a person than I ever have in my entire life. And I was always one of those people that was kind of like, I couldn't wait to be an adult. Like I remember being in high school and I went to a therapist in high school and was like, I'm just so tired of all these children. Like I am ready to move on to college. I think this is.
Well, we didn't discuss that you were in a sorority. I didn't realize you were actually Elle Woods.
Yeah, kind of, I guess, in a way. Well, it was the cool sorority. I mean, we were the partiers.
Of course it was.
Yeah, I mean, we were there for a good time, not for
What was your
a hard
sorority?
time.
What was the
Chi
what's the
Omega,
sorority?
hoot hoot to everybody out there. Chi O, shout out. But if you want to say like differences between like religions and relate them to a sorority, that was like the most open-minded kind of sorority, because there are some sororities that are kind of like
They're culty.
kind of
Yeah.
skull and bones situation where
Yeah.
weird stuff be happening. So no, I guess that's a new fact that you learned about me, but it's that was a fun part of my life. But this right now, I dare I say, probably I will feel even more so wanting, like when I'm 40, of wanting to stay there, because I think that I've heard many, many times from people that women a lot of times in their 40s like really come into themselves. So, it's one of those things for me, instead of dreading it, I'm like really looking forward to that. So if you could choose what age you would stay at for the rest of your life, what would it be?
This is hard because I felt like the age that I was like killing the game. I'm killing the game in a different way now, because I do try to push myself constantly to be a better version of myself and to be proactive. And I try to be productive in my career and my life. So I would love to say right now, but right now, is an intense time in my life. And so I feel like when I was on tour with like We Will Rock You, and then I was doing Memphis and at the winning the Ovation Award, I think that was probably one of the biggest highlights of my life, was when I was achieving the things that I wanted to achieve. So that was like what, five. That was 2000. Wow, that was like 2015. So I'm about to turn 40. So y'all do the math.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that was a great time. If I had to choose, I loved that part of my life because it was such
fulfilling. Like it was like you felt fulfilled.
Yeah, and I think that the best is yet to come in a way.
Yeah.
So if I had to choose another age, maybe I would go to something I don't know. Maybe I would do 50.
Yeah.
Because I want to see what the next.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like you want to, I think life is so glorious in so many ways when you can just experience it and not. Brad said something where he was like, I'm trying not to judge myself. I'm trying to judge the way I think anymore. And so, God, the age.
Well, that was like, after this whole conversation, I was like, this question is going to be a lot deeper than I really thought it was going to be, because I feel like, because I've come out the other end on a lot of things with my divorce and loss and things that I've gone through and worked through so much with my therapist, that, that I do see that other side, and that I know going forward that I can do hard things and that I can recover from them. And so in a way, it's like, I'm almost like, what kind of amazing revelations like are yet to come about everything. And because you start to learn that it's not about, I totally understand the feeling of like, the year we opened the beer garden, like I would say that was like the most exhilarating time ever. And I felt so accomplished, but I didn't, at that time, I still lived in kind of a place where I did still judge myself. And I still did like take criticism very, very harshly. And now I've kind of have a new perspective. I just feel
and
like
that's wonderful. That's kind of the dream, to be honest with you. That's probably why you and Brad are like, because you probably are like, well, I'm really present right now.
Yeah.
So because I'm so present right now, I could stay here.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to keep being this present. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I'm striving to get more present.
Yeah, you're getting there. You're getting there. And then this podcast is helping you, I think.
Oh my God. Talking about trauma every day at 9 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday, every weekend. It really is making me psychoanalyze everyone in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I don't know if you're feeling the same way. But like now knowing this about Brad, like he really brought it today, and he was really vulnerable and really open about his horrific experience.
Yeah.
But he still has so much like, yeah, that happened. It was terrible. And I was brainwashed, but now my life is great. So I went through that for a reason. That's what I heard.
Yeah. And I think it kind of goes back to our episode with Sarah, where she's like, I, went through all this horrific loss, but it's like, then you are kind of like, you have an armor on you that that thicker skin of like, I overcame that. So, I mean, come at me.
Yeah, this
Come at me,
whole
bro.
idea of the armor. I mean, Brad clearly hasn't. I mean, wouldn't you have an armor after going through all that?
Have to. I mean, there's no
For
way
survival.
to try to describe the cognitive dissonance that Brad had to go through on a daily basis while he's, was president of, I don't remember what exactly the club was, but that is trauma in and of itself. And then to rise above that is incredible. So I'm just, I feel like I'm a broken record, but I'm just extremely impressed by him. And it was for me a very delightful combo because I felt like it was talking to somebody who has really dealt with their shit. And
continuing in therapy, which is so important. Y'all get a therapist. Everybody listening, get a therapist. Can't tell you the things that you will learn about yourself and the experiences you've gone through. Well, thank you, Brad, so much. Brad Gardner, everybody. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you, Brad. And everybody go check him out on his website. We'll put everything in the show notes, but just an incredible person. So thank you so much. And as always, Todd, I love seeing your beautiful face.
You too.
And I will see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.